Welcome. This is the second video in the series about the mathematics of elections, and in this video we are going to use one voting method to determine the winner of an election, and that'll be called the plurality method. But first we are going to see about organizing the information that is collected from the voters. So recall that voters record their preferences on ballots, which is the vocabulary word there. And so there needs to be a good way to organize the information rather than just looking at all the individual ballots. Individual ballots are the source information, but we want something that's a little bit more concise. So the example we're going to run with here is from the book. It's example 1.1, and it's about the math club, no less. So the math club needs to decide who's going to be their next president. So all the members are given a ballot and asked to rank their choices. And below here we have this preference schedule. The preference schedule is referring to this whole table. And this whole table is supposed to record all of the information from all of the ballots. So let's look at one ballot, or what one ballot might look like. So it would be like rank all on a piece of paper. And then it'll have, candidate A, candidate B, candidate C, and candidate D. And they'll have little lines next to them so you can write your preference. And suppose that, that's the ballot you receive and you write, B's got your fancy, then it's D, C, and finally A. Doesn't really impress you. So that's the ballot you turn in. Well, that ballot is one of these four. This is just ballot is one of four. 4 people voted this way, exactly the same way. And the way that this preference schedule works is the number at the top communicates how many people voted in a particular way. And the way is just demonstrated in the column. So 4 people voted B, D, C, A. So the first question here is how many people in total voted in this election? Well, so each column tells you a number of people voting in a particular fashion. So the sum of the number of voters is how many people in total voted in the election. So that's 14 plus 10 plus 8 plus 4 plus 1. And that it will be, so we have 24 plus 8 is 32, plus 4 is 36, plus 1 is 37. And there we go. How many people ranked B as third? This is information you can gather by looking at the third row of the preference schedule. So whenever we see a B there, we can ask how many people put B as third. And at the top, you can just read 8. And then there's one ballot that looks like CDBA. That's one more person putting B as third. This is 8 plus 1 equals 9. So these questions are just about reading the preference schedule. And the last question here is how many different ways are there to actually fill out a ballot? So we wrote an example ballot over here on the top right, but you could have easily have recorded something like along these lines. So say rank all, A, B, C, D. You could have absolutely thought A was the best, C was the second best, B was third, and D was fourth. But notice, nobody voted this way. In the preference schedule, there is no A, C, B, D, A, C, B, D. It's like you could put a 0 up here to communicate that nobody voted that way, but that's kind of unnecessary information. It's implied, by its absence. But one might ask, well, how many columns are kind of missing here? Because there's only 5 distinct ballots. But we might just ask how many ways could people have voted. And to see that, let's ask a different question. How many ways could one have voted A's first? As the top choice. And we'll answer this question because it's a smaller question, and it'll have the same answer as how many ways could one have chosen B as the top choice? How many ways could one have chosen C as the top choice and D as the top choice? And so if we just answer it for A, we can anticipate that there'll be the same number of types of ballots for all 4 candidates. We can multiply our final answer to this question by 4 to answer the original question. So if A is the top choice, then it could have gone B, C, D. A was the top choice and B was the second. Could have been that D and C were flipped. And that exhausts all the ways that A was the top and B was the second. So now if A is the top and C was the second, it could have been B and then D. Could have been A and then C and then a switch from the bottom, DB. Could have been A then D, B, C, or A then D, C, B, for 6 total ways. 6 ways. So, to answer how many different ways were there to fill out a ballot at all, 24 total ways. We should write that. 6 ways for A to be at the top. Implies 24 possibilities. Because there'll be 6 ways for B to be at the top, 6 ways for C to be at the top, and 6 ways for D to be at the top. But of this, only 5 of those 24, only 5 were actually present. All right, but let's actually see who won this election. And to decide who wins the election, we have to decide the way that we're going to count the votes. So the first method we're going to consider is called the plurality method. And the plurality method is just asking who has the most first place votes. So we're asked, using the preference schedule, determine the complete ranking of the candidates, like who won, who got second, who got third, who got fourth. So next thing, we can go ahead and make ourselves a table here. We can say candidate and number of first place votes. Done that. A, B, C, D. All right, let's scroll back up. A has received 14 first place votes. B has received just 4 first place votes. C has received 10 from here and another 1 from here for a total of 11 first place votes. And D must have received the rest of the votes, so we could subtract everything from 37, or note that from the preference schedule, D received 8 first place votes. So, A wins first place. C wins second. D wins third. And B, I guess you don't really win, you maybe just get fourth. So notice that A doesn't have a majority of the votes. But we still say that A wins. There's 37 voters. So a majority which means more than half. Like strictly more than half. Would mean having at least so we would divide 37 by 2, and you need more than that. So you can just look at 37 divided by 2. 18 and a half. At least 18 and a half votes. Which means having 19 or more. So this is an issue with the plurality method. It's not demanding a majority. It's just asking who has the most first place votes. So that's our first method for deciding a winner of an election. All right, see you in the next video.